Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Uh-oh. Music stopped. Yeah, okay. So this so speak now. So thank you all for coming. program will be in English. On these occasions of initiation, Prabhupada would often explain what was going on. So, in a sense, the process that's going on here, that a teacher is formally accepting a student, and a student agrees to reciprocate with the teacher, as I explained in the Gita guide, it's actually universal process which literally makes the world go round. So I'll explain that. There's a verse in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that states, "Evam pravartitam chakram," which literally means, and I'm going to translate the Sanskrit very literally, that thus a wheel or a cycle has been made to turn. If you know, in the modern West, we tend to think, actually coming from Middle Eastern ideas that came through the Old New Testament, there's a tendency to conceive of time as linear, that you start at a certain point in time, then it just goes in a line perpetually. But if you look at the Greco-Roman culture, and also certainly the Vedic culture, they conceived of time as being circular, that things happen in cycles. And of course, that's how seasons function, right? The seasons move in cycles, and the phases of the moon are cyclical, and so on. So when these ancient cultures that were also philosophical observed nature, they found that cycles seem to be the natural motion. And the Sanskrit word that Krishna uses here, which means cycle, is chakra, which also can mean, round disc, but it also just means a cycle. So to translate this very literally, pravartitam, I don't know how much I should indulge myself in historical linguistics here, but pravartitam, evam pravartitam chakram, which literally means a cycle has been made to turn. And all those linguistic elements we still have in English. Pra became, in Sanskrit, became the English pro, as in words like proceed and so on, or produce. And vart, we still have an English stem, which in English is spelled V-E-R-T, vert. And in words like invert, revert, pervert, introvert, invert, and so on and so forth. So I think I'll stop the linguistics here. I can go on all day with this, but so evam pravartitam chakra. Pravartitam literally means that that's something which is made to move forward, but in cycles. So that a cycle has been made to turn. And this vartitam is the same word that you find in another form in the definition of yoga in the Yoga Sutras, which is that Cheta vritti nirodha, Cheta vritti nirodha. So the vritti, the turning of the mind turning away from the truth. So that's the definition of yoga, to keep the mind from turning away. So in this case, pravartitam chakram, a chakra or a cycle has been made to turn. And then Krishna says very interestingly, nanu varti atiha jaha. And in this world, one who does not keep the cycle turning, literally, anuvarti atiha jaha, aghayur, their life, ayur, Ayurveda, ayur means the duration of life. So in this case, ayur simply means their life. The whole extent of their life is aga, which means, in a sense, an offense against nature, or a sin, as in the Agasura, the sin demon. So aghayur indriya ramo, because they've simply lived to gratify their senses, and mogang partha sajivati, that person lives in vain, with no real gain. So why? Why is this cycle so important? That if you don't, because it's been set in motion, in nature, a cycle's been set in motion. If one does not keep it turning, then their life becomes an offense against nature, and to use the old biblical language, against nature's God. So, because the cycle is the cycle of reciprocity, it's a cycle of reciprocity, which we observe everywhere. For example, let's say you go into a supermarket and you take some items and you have to check out. You have to pay for them. If you take the items and don't pay for them, you've broken the cycle of reciprocity. If someone is married, there are duties, and one has to be prepared to perform the duties of marriage in order for it to work. And so, if one fails to reciprocate in marriage with a faithful spouse, then one has broken this cycle, which literally makes the world go round. So whether it's in our capitalist society, customer service, or, anywhere you look in nature, anywhere you look in the natural world, there's reciprocation, even mathematically in terms of physics. That's, I think, Newton's third law. Every force produces an equal and opposite force. Is that right? So, so even what people somewhat cluelessly call blind nature, even nature is operating this way: forces and actions and reactions. It's called the pendulum effect. Galileo was into pendulums, and before Galileo, Plato talked about this. He talked about that every political extreme breeds its opposite, and I will not succumb to the temptation to apply that to contemporary America. But I'm going to keep this straight, clean, spiritual. So Plato observed, actually, in the Republic, that political extremes, he said that anarchy breeds tyranny or democracy, and which he thought were not too different. And one of the reasons he thought that way is because democratic government basically murdered his guru, who was Socrates. But in any case, so whether you look at the political sphere, philosopher Hegel in his dialectic applied this to human history in general, that extremes produce their opposites in the political sphere, socially, everywhere. The same is true psychologically. So everywhere you look in the universe, you find this pravartitam chakra, the cycles are made to turn, where causes and effects have a logic to them, which of course is the basis of science. You couldn't have science unless there was some logic. The Stoic word was logos. That's, by the way, where the English word logic comes from. It's from the Stoic logos, that of cause and effect, that cause and effect are rational. There's a reason why, if you, let's say, throw a ball with a certain force, it travels through space at a certain velocity for a certain distance. And so everywhere you look, there's this pravartitam chakram. And when you go to human relationships, either in marriage or between parents and children, for example, Krishna says in the Bhagavatam that one of the greatest sins is that if one was raised by loving parents, and then when the parents are elderly, the children don't reciprocate and help the parents, that's a capital sin, to neglect parents who have taken care of you. And so everywhere you look, there's this reciprocity. Now, how does it apply to the current event? I have no idea. I just thought I'd talk. Actually, I do have an idea. And that is the relationship between guru and disciple is not just blind, obsequious, subservient surrender. tempting as that is from the guru's point of view. And in fact, if you look at ancient history, Rudyard Kipling said, "East is east and west is west, and never the twain shall meet." And ISKCON is trying bravely to, join the twain. Because if you go back to the earliest documented documented opinions of how Eastern people saw Western people and how Western people saw Eastern people, as far as I know, the earliest documented evidence of that is in the accounts of the great wars between Persia and Greece. And so from the Greek point of view, the Asians, the Persians, the sort of the very multicultural, multi-ethnic Persian Empire, but the Persian people, the Asians were obsequious. They just bow down to their leaders kind of blindly, and they couldn't think for themselves. And from the Asian point of view, the Western people were kind of barbaric, didn't respect authority, and so on. And so the Hare Krishna movement, God help us, the Hare Krishna movement is actually, in a sense, attempting this great historical experiment to bring the best of the East and the best of the West together. And this initiation ceremony, see that? I'm actually lucid still, is actually, that's what this is about. So the typical guru-disciple relationship, which comes from the East, and not only India. I mean, we talk about the Near East. We can talk about the Old Testament that talks about people bowing down to each other. They're not even gurus, just to show respect. When Abraham's wife died, Sarah, and he had to bury her in those days, sort of the high-class burial was in a cave. That's why it was an honor when Jesus, was Joseph, a man named Joseph offered a cave for Jesus, and that was considered to be a real honor, a service. And so when a rich man offered a cave for Abraham to bury Sarah, he was so grateful he bowed down, the way they do in the Hare Krishna movement. He bowed down on the ground. And in other cases like that, the man who donated some high land to the King David of Israel to build the first temple. And so the man was so excited that the king actually came to his humble abode that he bowed down. And so it's sort of a pan-Asian thing, or it was. So what is the guru-disciple relationship? Because in this, do you want some water?
You both getting me some.
Here, you take this and I'll take the next one. Unless I start coughing, I'll take it back. It's one of the fine guru services that we offer.
Thank you. Yes.
So the guru-disciple relationship is not something exotic, some exotic Oriental ritual. It's actually just, you could say, the Vedic version. Oh, thank you. I'll take it. It's the same thing that goes on throughout the world, throughout time, and what literally makes civilized society possible. And that is that people take and then they give back. That people reciprocate. Fair reciprocation. It's actually the dynamic principle that makes civilization possible and actually governs physical nature itself. Do you want one too? Water? Oh. So that's what this is. It's just one example, and it's a very important example of a universal, literally, in the physical sense, all over the universe, a universal principle that's found throughout the physical universe and throughout society, wherever there are rational human beings, or just other rational creatures, like E.T. So that's what we're doing. And of course, because this particular reciprocation, and it is reciprocation, as much as the disciple makes a vow to do certain things, the guru is also, although we don't actually make vows in the traditional ceremony, but nonetheless, the guru is also committed to doing his or her duty properly. So it's a mutual commitment. It's a mutual commitment to act in such a way, mutually. By the way, mutual also Sanskrit mitas, mutual, to act in such a way that that a great goal is accomplished. It's just like the very serious act of begetting a child, bringing a human life or bringing a soul into a human body, and the parents take on very grave responsibilities, just as they do when they get married. Of course, people used to take those things seriously. Now it's just kind of like, test drive. But so the guru commits himself or herself to be a faithful and competent and caring spiritual teacher. And if someone is not really willing or able to do that, they should, go into some other business, maybe like, I don't know, whatever. Just find some other business that's more appropriate for one's nature. But those are the qualifications. In fact, Prabhupada says that there are 3 qualifications to be a first-class guru. And I find them very interesting because, and I'll name them, because if any one of them is missing, there may very well be problems. The 3 qualifications for the guru, which I'll say now, I guess it's my vow, but don't sue me. Anyway, the three qualifications of a bona fide guru are: number 1, the guru should actually understand the spiritual science, so that if the student asks questions, the guru can't repeatedly say, "That's a good question. I was wondering about that myself." And did you try ChatGPT? So the guru it's just like if you're a geology teacher, you should know geology. So if you're a spiritual teacher, you have to know what you're talking about and be reasonably expert in the authoritative texts. So the guru, and not only should the guru understand the philosophy or the knowledge, but the guru should actually practice it. So if you have a guru that, talks a good game, but doesn't actually practice what he or she preaches, then that can easily become problematic. And the third qualification is that the guru has to be inclined to teach. Because you can have a person, let's say, who knows the sacred texts, who practices them, but just doesn't like people, or just doesn't, just doesn't want to teach other people. Like, I have my own life to worry about. And so if any one of those is missing, we have a problem. So that's the qualification of the guru. The guru has to be knowledgeable, has to practice the knowledge, and has to be inclined to help other people. Has to be inclined to help other people. So those are the 3 qualifications. And the disciple just has to be a good student. I mean, you should all know what that means. And that is, and not a blind follower. I wrote an essay called Understanding Prabhupada, in which I gave many, many examples from Prabhupada, his own statements, that a guru is expert in spiritual science, not necessarily in cryptocurrency. Although some gurus did think they were expert in financial investments and ruined the lives of many of their disciples. So a guru, it's like, it would be as ridiculous as to say that so-called scientist Dawkins, who makes comments about religion, even though he breaks the first rule of scholarship, serious scholarship, and that is he speaks outside his area of expertise. He has absolutely no scholarly background in religion, in the history of religion, in theology, in anything like that. And so, so the guru should speak in his area or her area of expertise, and the disciple should follow not blindly, but with their eyes open. So, and so a disciple or a prospective disciple is responsible to verify that's that the guru is actually genuine. That it's not sort of like some kind of holy Ponzi scheme or something, or that the guru is just, full of himself or herself. There's a bunch of those, on YouTube where they're extremely well satisfied with themselves and but have what's that great line from George Harrison's song? That's the way it goes. These people, all they have is pose. They're really good at sort of posing as something. I'm not talking about ISKCON gurus right now, much as I seem to be inclined to critique the Hare Krishna movement. So, so there's a mutual, what is called in Sanskrit, pariksha. Pari means it's just English peri, around, which means in Sanskrit, pari as a prefix, again, it just became the Greek pari, same thing, can mean thoroughly, like, all points, all around. Like if you say someone's an all around athlete, it means they can do a lot of things. And so an iksha means inspecting, examining, looking at something. So pariksha means that one thoroughly examines. So there's this mutual examination where the guru verifies through various means that the prospective disciple is actually qualified, and then the disciple, one of the qualifications to be initiated is to have enough common sense and to have enough knowledge of what we're doing to verify that the guru is genuine, authentic. And so it's meant to be a mutually rational, intelligent, verified event rather than just, oh my God, when he looked me in the eye, I just went all, I don't know, my knees go, it's not some silly thing. The guru's not supposed to be like I don't know. Anyway, I won't make my critique of modern society and the people who become famous and important. So that's what it is, and that's the reciprocation. The guru wants nothing personally because the guru is supposed to be a devoted servant of God. If the guru's not that, then again, we have a problem. And so and of course, real service is out of love. I mean, think all the things that parents do for their children. I was very fortunate, and I think I was very, very fortunate to have excellent parents. And when I think back to my childhood, I won't think back to my marginally sane adolescence, but or marginally insane, but when I think back to my childhood, or actually even my crazy adolescence and all that, and really going far out and actually joining the Hare Krishna movement, but I had very good parents, very, very devoted parents, very loving parents. And I think that was a great thing. And so they were, in a sense, they were devoted to duty. They didn't question their sacred duty to give their lives for the good of their children. And so if the guru actually loves Krishna, then it's not like, oh my God, why are you making me work for you? That's not the idea to the disciple. If the guru actually is devoted to Krishna, then it's an honor. It's an honor and a spiritual pleasure to be able to assist Krishna by assisting those who are trying to understand him or trying to serve him. And in the same way, when I was personally serving Prabhupada, actually I still am, when I am serving, or even when I was younger and serving, I never thought that, oh my God, I'm doing all this service, not getting paid. It's like working, getting a job somewhere, and then when it comes to payday, they say, well, we're not gonna be able to cut you a check this week. It's not like that. I felt it was exhilarating. I mean, it still is. It was the greatest honor of my life, and still is, just to be able to have this service. because that's what love is. If you love someone, say a man falls in love with a woman and wants to and hopes she falls in love with him, in a sense, what he's hoping and praying for is that she will allow me to serve. If you actually understand what real relationships are. And that's what the girl who's doing her, she loves me not. I know people still do that. They probably don't trust in clovers anymore, but cloverology. But that's what love is. When you love, it's like when people want to have a child. What they're hoping for when they want to have a child is the service. Because my God, it's a lot of service. So service, loving service is really the only pure happiness in life. Where because we love something so much, we want to serve. And that's what happiness is. And so in that sense, the guru has to serve the disciple, doing his or her duty, and disciple serves the guru. But it's not like, what is that song? 16 tons, and what do you get? It's not just like working in the coal mines or something, or just it's not drudgery. It's actually the greatest happiness. And Krishna or God is serving us in so many ways. And do you realize what it's like having to deal with like almost an infinite number of idiots, which is basically what the universe is. And so, it's like, parents, their favorite thing is to have to go and bail their kids out of jail, right? I mean, that's what every parent dreams of. And so Krishna has to come to this universe and just, bail us out and teach us how to behave properly. So that's what it is. That's a guru-disciple relationship properly understood. So any questions on these points? Okay. So should we proceed?
Sure.
Okay, lock the doors. So you two can decide who goes first Lakeland. Morning.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the word devoto from the Latin, devoto, devotee, means by a vow. So when you agree to live by a vow, then you become literally a devotee in the original sense of the word. So what is your vow this morning?
My vow is to chant 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra daily and to follow the 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxicants, no illicit sex, and no gambling.
That's right. So you have a very special name, which is the beads. Oh, there. Which ones are yours?
The one's closer to you.
Okay. So your name is Devakī, Devi Das. Devakī was the mother of Krishna. So your vow?
I vow to chant daily the Maha Mantra 16 rounds and to refrain from meat eating, gambling, intoxicants, and illicit sex.
Very good. Okay, it's a deal. So you have a very also very beautiful name, which is Keli-niketana. I was thinking that Keli means like pastimes or just activities that one performs for pleasure. And it's in the Gurvastika prayers, Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Sita, for the perfection of the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So in the spiritual world, people are acting not because, they have to pay bills, but rather because it's just the nature of the spiritual world. Everything is very blissful and happy. And so those happy activities free with complete freedom are called Keli. Niketan means abode or home. So the spiritual world is the abode of wonderful, wonderful pastimes. And so Devi does it. Very nice. Keli-niketana. So thank you all very much for coming and witnessing this event. And now Leela is going to perform the traditional Vedic fire sacrifice. Very interesting. In the Rig Veda, which is probably the oldest book in any language, and certainly the oldest book in it's an archaic Sanskrit. And the very first verse says that of all the gods, of all the divine beings, the highest is Vishnu. And it's first verse of the first book of the Rig Veda. And Agni, fire, is sort of in Greco-Roman understanding, sort of the messenger of the divine beings, messenger of the gods. And so fire has been considered to be a conduit, sort of a channel between earth and heaven in almost all ancient civilizations. Zoroastrian culture, very much. In Greco-Roman culture, if you know your Iliad and Odyssey, especially in the Odyssey, you see this where a fire, a sacrificial fire, is the channel that connects heaven and earth. And this is very much the case. Actually, from the word Agni or fire, we have the English word ignite, obviously. And so, so the fire sacrifice is not really the main thing we do, but Prabhupada wanted to sort of keep tradition. It's a way of sort of remembering and keeping in touch with an extremely ancient tradition that was found all over the earth, which is, again, connecting from earth to heaven through a sacrifice of fire, because fire consumes the offering. And so without going into the whole history of that, which is very interesting, but so we're going to do a little fire sacrifice with offerings to Krishna. And Leela is going to do it. So that'll be right outside there, right? So again, thank you all very much for coming. You're free to go.